What unfolds when a company head's mother secretly investigates and discovers his senior manager mocking the custodian with racial slurs? You're about to learn the truth. The storage room reeked of sanitizer and stillness. Evelyn Harper lingered. Within, dressed in worn ash-colored slacks, an oversized teal shirt and tattered sneakers she'd saved from her planting hobby. Her grey waves were hidden beneath a plain hat. She gazed at her image in the small mirror hanging on the doors. Reverse side, hardly identifying the figure who once advised in executive suites. Now she appeared as someone nobody would glance at twice. That was precisely the intention. She inhaled deeply, seized her cleaning pail, and swung the door wide. The glaring lights of Harper Innovations' main office hummed overhead. It was nearing 7:15 p.m. The structure, perched in central Montgomery, was modern. Shiny, windowed walls housing eager professionals who boasted online about their welcoming workplace vibe. Evelyn was set to uncover the reality. It began 2 weeks prior during a chat with her son, Malcolm. "You've crafted something incredible, darling," she said, "yet whispers have reached me." "Whispers," he echoed. A contact claimed. "Your managers mistreat the evening workers, custodians, couriers. You get the drift." A brief silence followed. Then he chuckled softly. "Mom, complaints are inevitable. It's business." "No," she replied sternly. This struck me as serious. They said it's prejudiced, rude, belittling. "I know your soul, but not every person you bring on shares it." Malcolm exhaled. "I'll check it out," though Evelyn knew his schedule was packed. Plus, he'd raised this firm from nothing. He relied on his crew. She didn't press further. Instead, she took action. With a few discreet calls and favors, Miss E joined as a part-time custodian via an external agency. No one in the firm, not even HR, knew her true identity. Here she stood at 62, mopping tiles as if it were 1979 once more. But this wasn't about ego. It was about honesty. Rounding the bend to the central workspace, she noticed a cluster of junior leaders near the lounge. They were chuckling, bantering, sharing artisanal brews like it was a college bash. One caught her eye and grinned slyly. He nudged his neighbor and muttered something. The words escaped her, but their tone hit hard. That's when she realized this would be tougher than she'd imagined. 3 days before stepping into Harper Innovations with a mop, Evelyn rested on her veranda in Mobile, gazing at the roses she'd nurtured with Malcolm when he was only 12. She clutched a note, unsigned, penned in neat script, no sender's address, just 4 sheets tucked together. "I once admired Harper Innovations. I believed it stood apart, but some Caucasian leaders there degrade custodians like they're invisible. They dubbed the black cleaner Miss Nobody behind her. One called her Aunt Sally recently. Your son likely doesn't suspect, but you ought to know." She reread that part thrice, then once more. Evelyn rarely wept, not since her husband passed 12 years back, but that note lingered in her mind, unshakable, not only because it concerned her son's firm, but because she'd been Miss Nobody long ago, before her education, her rise, her boardroom days. She understood. Being unseen amid polished suits, she dialed a pal, Sandra, still active in temp staffing. "Got a cleaning team in Montgomery?" "Sure, a few. Why?" "I need in." Sandra hesitated. "Hold on, what?" "I want an outfit, a timetable, no favors, just a tag reading Miss E and night hours." "You're not joking?" "Never more certain." Sandra didn't probe. She just arranged it. True friends do that. Evelyn kept Malcolm in the dark, not a clue. She wasn't out to shame him. She believed in his goodness. Yet leadership went beyond vision. It demanded responsibility. If top folks were demeaning others over status or skin, it wasn't merely a smudge on the tiles. It tarnished all he'd achieved. The evening before her debut shift, she packed light. No cosmetics, no scent, no gems, just a prayer book, a flask, and a journal. Her fingers shook as she fastened the bag. "This isn't for me," she murmured. "It's for every." Lady overlooked and belittled just for holding a cloth. Her first shift was hushed, eerily so. Evelyn slipped in via the rear dock around 6:45 p.m., where a young cleaner, Javier, handed her a trolley and tipped his head silently. He didn't quiz her. He simply directed her to her zone, floors 3 to 5, the management tier. "Stay in common areas," he muttered. "They're prickly about private rooms. Don't touch a desk unless it's a mess." Evelyn smiled warmly. "Thanks, dear." The lift chimed as she wheeled her gear into the corridor. She couldn't resist noting the scene. Transparent partitions, stone counters, airy lounges with pricey sofas and bold sayings in sleek frames. This was another realm. Soon after she began polishing the snack bar counter, a woman with glossy chestnut hair strode in, shoes tapping like she ruled the space. She hardly glanced at Evelyn before wrinkling her brow and stretching past for the coffee maker. "You skipped a patch by the cooler," she noted, eyes elsewhere. Evelyn held her tongue. "I'll fix it, miss." "No need for miss. I'm not ancient," she snapped, sipping her brew. "Just be thorough." The woman exited without a follow-up. Evelyn's expression stayed steady, but inwardly something churned, not from the slight, but its ease, as if disdain was her norm. The following nights didn't improve. On Wednesday, two guys in their 30s, Nate and Cole, hung around late in the conference room, guffawing over ales. Evelyn was cleaning the corridor panes when their voices drifted over. "I swear, she's like my old school's cafeteria worker," Nate said, gesturing through the glass. Cole peered over. "You mean Miss E, dude? She shuffles like she's been wiping floors since the 70s. "Bet she has," Nate snorted. Evelyn faced away, acting deaf. She'd have left. But Cole, Rose sauntered out and grabbed the water jug. He poured a cup, eyed Evelyn, and accidentally spilled it at her feet. Chilly droplets soaked her shoes. "Whoops," Cole grinned. "Didn't spot you there." Evelyn paused, glanced down, then up at him. "I'll handle it," she said evenly, but Cole didn't budge. He strolled back to the room like it was nothing. Nate roared with laughter. That night, back at her motel, Evelyn shed her damp socks, squeezed them out over the basin, and sat on the bed's edge in quiet. She didn't shed tears. She flipped open her journal and jotted it all. Every word, names, times, dates. This wasn't mere cockiness or casual jests. It was dominance. They figured she was insignificant, a non-entity. They didn't mind her witnessing it because, to them, she vanished beyond her garb. For Evelyn, that wasn't just recognizable. It was intimate. By the fifth evening, the scorn wasn't hushed. It was bold, brazen, as if they craved her attention. Evelyn had just sanitized the lift controls and was heading to the lounge to top off her sprayer. Nearing the turn, she caught a snippet of talk. Cole again, now with a few marketing folks. "Man, I'm just saying, inclusivity hires don't mean you act like every old black lady's Rosa Parks," he chuckled. The group snickered, and one, Travis, with his short crop and peach shirt, piped up, "Don't front, you said she..." "Stepped right out of a 60s rally pic." Cole grinned, "Probably picketed with Malcolm X, no cap." Evelyn kept moving, unfazed on the surface, head low like she missed it, but inside, a spark. That same night, while scouring a juice stain, from the rug she caught Denise, the coffee machine woman, chatting with a co-worker, Luke, by the copier. "I don't get why Malcolm sticks with these shady cleaning outfits," Denise murmured. "She barely talks unless you prompt her. It's odd." "Bet she doesn't know English," Luke replied. Denise huffed. "She does, but she carries herself like she's above her station, strolling around like she's inspecting us. It's unsettling." Evelyn clenched her jaw so tight it ached. She stayed mute, slipped her phone out and quietly hit record. She let it capture 5 minutes of their biting comments. Later, she retreated to the supply closet, door closed, and replayed their voices, the cutting jabs, the guesses, the giggles. Sadness didn't hit her. Exhaustion did. Weary that in 2025, folks still sized up value by attire and roles. Weary that these weren't random jerks. They were Malcolm's crew, ones he leaned on, ones he guided. Above all, she was drained from seeing honest people shamed in quiet. That evening, Evelyn didn't head straight to her motel. She parked across the street, staring at the lit-up building. High up, Malcolm's office glowed. He was clueless about the mess below, but she'd make sure that changed soon enough. Friday night, Evelyn's final round. She sensed it before crossing the threshold. She had plenty. Her journal was packed. Her phone held 6 clips. She had names, moments, everything required. But she wouldn't fade out softly. That night, an incident cracked open all she'd bottled up. Around 8 p.m., she stepped into the manager's lounge to clean the counter again. Same drill, same crowd. Nate sipped a craft ale, while Cole lounged in a seat, phone in hand, boots propped on the sleek table. They ignored her at first. She wiped crumbs from the table's rim, cautious not to graze his laces. "You skipped a bit," Cole grumbled, eyes fixed elsewhere. Evelyn held her tongue. Nate chuckled. "Yo, Cole, I'd wager she earns more than us. Those equity gigs. Them pay off these days." Cole flicked his gaze to Evelyn. "How much you think? 11, 12 bucks an hour? Probably wires it all to her grandbabies." "Doubt she's got any," Nate shot back. "Likely never wed, too caught up in picket lines. And scolding folks," Cole smirked. "She's the sort to rant about the man online." Evelyn finished the table calm as ever, but her grip on the cloth whitened her knuckles. She moved toward the bin when Cole rose, stretched wide, and accidentally bumped his half-empty ale bottle off the edge. It crashed down, splashing, across the floor, foam creeping toward her shoes. "Oh," he feigned shock, "spill on deck 3. Evelyn eyed the chaos, then locked eyes with Cole. No flinch. "You find this amusing?" she asked softly. It was her first words to him. Cole cocked his head. "What'd you say? Does shaming the folks who tidy your messes make you sharp? A boss?" Nate jumped up on edge. "Hold up, you don't speak to us that way." "I've stayed quiet all week," Evelyn said, voice firm now. "I've grinned, wiped your surfaces, swept up your spills, heard you mock me under your breath, and you thought I was a ghost." "Woman," Cole sneered, "you're a nobody, a fill-in." Evelyn lifted her chin. "Certain of that?" The room went still. No one stirred. Then she drew her phone, tapped a few keys, and let a clip play loud. Cole's voice rang out. "Didn't spot you. Oops. Probably rallied with Malcolm X. Wires every dime home." Cole paled. Nate's jaw locked. "That's not allowed," Cole faltered. "Recording us without—" "I'm not debating rules," Evelyn cut in. "I'm telling you this is the last time you'll degrade anyone without fallout." She turned and left, poised, steady, her trolley trailing like it was routine. In the lot, she messaged Malcolm. "We've got to meet, Monday morning. Bring your top team." If they thought her bucket marked her as lesser, they'd soon see who they'd crossed. Monday dawned quick. Evelyn arrived at Harper Innovations in a slate-blue suit, tiny gold studs, and her curls swept into a gentle coil. No mop, no mitts, no Miss E tag, just authority. Malcolm greeted her in the foyer, puzzled. "Mum, what's this about?" he asked, embracing her. "You'll see the real me now," she said. "Let's head up." They rode to the top. He ushered her into the conference room, where 8 senior staff sat, mugs, laptops, some wary looks as she entered. Cole and Nate were present. Evelyn took the table's head, composed, upright. "Morning," she began. "Some of you know me. For those who don't, I'm Evelyn Harper, Malcolm's mom, co-creator of his first venture at 16, when he needed a site built. A few shifted uneasily. She went on, "Last week, I posed as a part-time cleaner, Miss E. Not for cash or perks, but to gauge how your squad handles those you deem beneath you." The air grew thick. Malcolm stared, jaw set. "Why keep me out of it?" "You had to witness it too," she said softly. "Leadership rises from the peak, but decay festers out of sight." She opened her file, transcripts, logs, times, and her phone. She played the clips, no fluff, just raw truth. Silence gripped the space. The chuckles, the taunts, the slights, the careless venom, Denise's tone, Nate's quips, Cole's cackle. Undeniable. Malcolm rose slowly. He eyed Cole, Nate, then Denise. "You three, my office, now!" Cole started to argue, but Malcolm snapped, "Now!" They filed out wordlessly. Evelyn didn't follow their exit. She faced the table. "This isn't about payback," she said, "but if this firm's to thrive, it must mirror more than profit. It needs values in your corridors, your talks, your lounges." A woman at the table's end, one Evelyn hadn't met, raised her hand timidly. "Ms. Harper, thank you. I've noticed it too, but didn't know how to call it out." "Truth doesn't need rank," Evelyn replied, "just guts." Malcolm returned, expression hard. "They're out," he said. "Done today." He faced his mom. "I should have heard you earlier." Evelyn touched his hand. "You did when it counted. Now the world would hear too." 2 days later, a video launched, a brief 42-second piece. It opened with Evelyn beaming in her cleaners gear, then Malcolm's voiceover direct. "Leadership isn't just profits. It's how you act when you think eyes are off. Last week, my mom, Evelyn Harper, went undercover here. What she faced was intolerable." Blurry audio snippets played. No names, no visuals, just voices, just phrases. The web ate it up. Millions viewed it in hours. By week's end, it blazed across feeds. Headlines rolled, "Black CEO's mom goes custodian to unmask bigotry in his firm. Evelyn Harper, she swept floors and overhauled culture." Evelyn stayed put, though. She dodged interviews, gently waved off story requests. She tended her roses, worked puzzles, and fed local kids snacks after class. Fame wasn't her aim, shift was. At Harper Innovations, shift hit hard. Bias training became mandatory, led by once quiet staff, now vocal. Feedback lines turned open, nameless. Custodians scored raises, better shifts, full perks. Wednesdays, Evelyn returned, not sweeping but advising. She roamed floors, chatted, listened. One day, Malcolm saw her with the new lobby clerk, Aisha, a Trinidad transplant. "You good, honey?" Evelyn asked softly. Aisha grinned. "I am now." Evelyn squeezed her hand. "Never let them shrink you." That afternoon, Malcolm found a note on his desk in her script. "Folks reveal themselves when they think no one sees. Keep your eyes open." He pinned it to his screen, not for memory, but because great leaders recall their roots and who showed them triumph versus honor. Titles don't elevate you, your spirit does. If this tale stirred you, pass it to someone who'd feel it. Next time you pass a cleaner in your office, a server at your table, or a sweeper on the path, notice them, greet them, thank them. Not for manners, but because it's just